following announcement has been paid for by the
Mark Order.
Welcome to the Elite Mark Order podcast, where we talk about Dynamite and all things wrestling related. I'm the Dr. Apot, the man with a PhD in THC, CosmicScott, and I'm joined by my partner and co-host, the newlywed and freshly fed quintessential stud muffin, JayV. Our giveaway contest is coming soon, so stick around for more details. You can also join the conversation and get all the best news and insider info by joining us for free at the Discord and become an Elite Mark by going to EliteMarkOrder.com. Click on the link in the description down below. How about that Blood and Guts match, Jay?
Blood and Guts was great, but I don't know if it can live up to the intro that you just made. That was excellent. Nice job.
Thank you. Well, you know, I had to give you something to match up to the THC and the PhD and THC. Yeah, I had to go and fuck that up. But the quintessential stud muffin was the best I could give you. Joel Gertner is a legend, so I had to give you legendary title.
Well, we'll have to talk about that because I was never really much of a Gertner fan, but that we can have another show about that.
Like him or not, he's a legend.
I don't know about that.
Well, he was on a legendary show.
He was.
Yeah.
So was Bill Alfonso.
All right, point made. Point made. So, seriously, Blood and Guts, what a fucking match that was. A full hour of just absolute carnage. I know some people have been a little disappointed that it wasn't quite enough carnage, but I'm sorry. I'm going to get into some of these details, but holy crap, you telling me that didn't stand up? I'm sorry, that was an incredible match. And if you're so bloodthirsty that you're that you're chanting, "We want fire," like the crowd was, maybe we need to dial it back just a slight, because that was fucking carnage. Jay, I know it started off with a match we've all been talking about, which is Claudio versus Omega. They started the first 5 minutes of the Blood and Guts match. I thought it was a smart move. The announcers put over that they were putting in the people who were going to have to be in the match the entire time. So the ones with the best cardio, the best trained, and certainly their anchors. I can't argue the BCC choice. It would have been Bryan Danielson if it wasn't his replacement from last year, Claudio Castagnoli. What do you think about the first 5 minutes?
I think that injuries played a big part in the structure
of
this match. I don't think Claudio and Kenny would have been opening, but Yuta hurt his hamstring against Kenny when they fought 2 weeks ago on Dynamite, and there was concern that Yuta might not even be able to go for this match. So I was expecting Yuta to start because that's kind of what someone in his position would do. Like he'd have to do the majority of the work, being the younger guy. But yeah, Yuta didn't come out until later, and then on the Elite side, you'd think that maybe I was expecting one of the Young Bucks to start, so it wasn't going to be Matt. So I don't know if Nick might have something going on too, but so this match structure changed significantly with Danielson being out with the broken arm.
Yeah.
He just posted the picture of it on Twitter with the rod and the screws added in, so he's going to be out for a while. It looks like that was a pretty serious break.
Months.
Meltzer said that Ibushi was fighting injured too. Ibushi was in the I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but Ibushi was in the worst shape I've ever seen him in.
I definitely want to talk about that when he shows up. That was not the Ibushi I've been sold on.
No, so he was, in parts of the match, it looked like he was hurting and cringing just standing up.
Yeah.
Hangman was off too. Meltzer said Hangman was limping after the match. You can see Hangman limping during the match, and even when Hangman enters, normally Hangman would come running out, but he was kind of in preservation mode.
It's funny. The reports are that there were injuries going in, but no serious injuries coming out, and no injuries were aggravated in this match. And I think that's damn near impossible to do, but congrats for doing it. That was a brutal match, and nobody got seriously hurt, and nothing got aggravated beyond what it was already at. That's good news.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see some guys taking some time off after this match. as this feud closes out. But yeah, I was glad there were no new serious injuries. So yeah, the hype video before the match, Kenny was talking about the numbers advantage, and that turned out to be the story of the match, which we'll get to. I thought that was kind of an interesting foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
And yeah, the beginning of the match, Kenny starting out against Claudio, that's definitely a dream match. I'd love to see these two guys go for like 40 minutes or longer if they feel like it. It was a good start to the show. Nothing too special. They were definitely, in preservation mode.
Well, I think that they were kind of holding back a little bit because, and we'll jump ahead here for 1 second. When Moxley comes out, he jumps the level up a lot. So I think they were kind of anticipating that. But that first 5 minutes was very basic wrestling. It was hard hitting. Of course, those two are fantastic. And that's why I think they will have a match later. Claudio's holding the spot at the top of ROH, and rightfully so. He's in the BCC, and rightfully so. One of the best factions out there, comprised of some of the best wrestlers there are in the world. So I think that positioning is great. Omega, we know, best bout machine, wrestling god, call him what you will. He is a fantastic wrestler. And as a result, those two starting really was like, damn, we're going to see a really good match. And they match up well. They matched up really well in those first 5 minutes. So I'm excited to see them more in the future with a longer match. 40 minutes, like you were saying. Maybe do one of the hour matches like Bryan. Now, would it have been Omega to start and Bryan Danielson to start? Maybe. Would it have been Yuta to start? I mean, that would have been fantastic. We've seen it. We know it's fantastic. What's that?
Yeah, Danielson and Kenny starting out would have definitely popped the crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Probably my favorite part of this segment, the first 5 minutes, was when the crowd, you got two rings here for this match. So there's a ring that's closer to the floor, the fans on the floor, and then you have another ring that's closer to the entrance side where there are no fans. So the fans on the opposite side that were close to the ring were chanting, "Use this ring, use this ring." And Claudio started fucking with him. He teased throwing Kenny into it and didn't do it. And then Kenny finally got the upper hand, and the crowd was delighted once Kenny got Claudio and they started fighting in the other ring. But I just thought that was interesting. That's not something I've seen before.
It's funny because they were riled up because MJF got him to chant all sorts of stuff, and he did it, and then he got Cole to do stuff, and we'll get to that later. But I think that's where the "We Want Fire" came from. I think they were we want tables, they got tables. We want this, they got that. So I think that they were built up to that level to expect, hey, if we chant "We Want Fire," maybe they'll break out a fire spot. And to me, again, I think that level of expectation's a little high. I put part of that blame on MJF because he really built that up. The best segment of the night was barely wrestling again. And we'll definitely get there, but this wrestling, this hardcore, this absolutely brutal match didn't really even start for 30 minutes. And so the first 5 minutes, Claudio and Omega, was straight wrestling. When you brought out Pac, the third man, then you started to get into the actual story of the match, which, as we know, is the heels have the advantage, the heels have the advantage. And Pac came out, and of course they started double teaming Omega immediately. But there was a little bit of tension between Claudio and Pac the entire match. And that's one of the sub-stories that comes to a head. Again, because of all the injuries, this story developed. We wouldn't have had this story if Bryan was still healthy and Pac was never in. If Eddie Kingston hadn't gone off and won a Noah championship, he'd have probably been in this match. And things would have been... Noah, New Japan. Sorry, New Japan. You're correct. Thank you for correcting me. But the fact is, none of that would have happened if Eddie hadn't been given that title and thus pulled, or hadn't gone to the G1. You know, there's so many little things that caused this match to come together the way it did, that when Pac came out and got involved last week or the week before, it was a big surprise. It was like, wow, that is not someone I would have thought would mix well. And so Pac's story, having that initial confrontation with Claudio, extended literally the length of the match and became pivotal later. What did you have to say about Pac?
So Pac came in and immediately started, kind of shoving a little bit with Cesaro, or I'm sorry, with Claudio.
Same
Arguing
thing.
over who was going to be able to punch Kenny, and you were talking about the whole how the story changed. Like, the Pac Claudio thing here is all about the ROH title shot that Tony's trying to promote his ROH pay-per-view by having this match. I think it's going to be an awesome match. It's probably the most interesting match to me so far. I do think I want to see this one. So, Pac coming out here, it was his first match in AEW in over 7 months. Like, who would have thought he'd be gone for 7 months? That's a long time.
It is.
And the only work he did during that whole 7 months was, back in March, like 4 months ago, he had a couple matches in the UK. But that's it. So he really took a lot of time off. I don't know if he was nursing some other injuries or may have had some work done. Or maybe it was all he had to get that nose rebuilt.
He probably had to deal with the nose, and he came out looking phenomenal. He was built. Like, he couldn't do shit with his face, but the rest of his body was fantastic. He had to have been out for months because of that nose.
Yeah. So Kingston was supposed to fight Claudio at the ROH pay-per-view, but Kingston wanted to be in the G1, and New Japan wanted him in the G1.
Mm-hmm.
So Kingston's over in Japan, and good for him. I'm definitely gonna watch his matches. We'll see how he holds up. The G1 is not what it used to be, where you'd fight, you'd be in a bracket with 8 people and fight all 8, you'd have 7 matches with those people. It's different now, where there's only 4 people in each bracket. But it's still a lot of work, especially if you advance. So we'll see how far Eddie goes. So, and then it was who was there was someone else that was going to move into the slot to fight Claudio for the
Dalton
ROH title.
No, was it? It was Dalton Castle, I thought.
I'm not sure, but I guess I'm just thinking of Danielson. Was gonna taking his spot here. So yeah, he was the third. Pac was the third choice for this match, and I thought it worked out well.
Technically, he was a great match. He hates the Elite. They were the ones who put him out for 9 months. He had a great storyline to be involved.
Yeah, and I'll reference another thing that happened with Pac in AEW as we get towards the end of the match, which was a little payback for Moxley. But
yeah, you're right.
The other thing I wanted to say here was Pac and Claudio fought in Chikara in PWG back in 2007. They had a series of single matches, and they teamed a bunch in WWE, fought each other a couple times in NXT and at a house show. But yeah, they do have a history together. It's not a long or storied history, but I'd love to go back and watch those Chikara and PWG matches, and then kind of watch the ROH match after.
I bet those two have
that would be a lot. That would be some awesome wrestling for sure.
I bet those two have amazing chemistry together. In the ring, they both have such powerful, strong, compact, brutal moves. Claudio just has that height advantage that he's just a bigger, stronger guy. But Pac is like a little fucking Wolverine. If that name wasn't toxic, I would suggest he would be the British Wolverine, because that dude, that's the image that I have, is like a Chris Benoit, almost rabid, violent, but technically proficient and brilliant. The dude's amazing. I've always been a fan of Neville. I always liked him back in WWE. I thought he had huge potential back when he even partnered with Graves, before Graves got hurt in NXT, when NXT was good. I thought Pac added a huge amount to this match, as far as his brutality and his technical expertise in taking moves and giving moves. He's an amazing wrestler, and his character shines strong. And this is another great example of it. His story throughout this match became the linchpin of the match itself. And I thought it was great. As far as the next guy after that would be Hangman. He came out, as you mentioned earlier, he was limping a little bit. There were a lot of injuries that were being nursed coming into this match. Just another testament that seems like half the people were working hurt in a match where you're guaranteed to be hurt, you know?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, Hangman.
mhm.
Hangman was really the first one to start using the cage. You know, he got up in the center of the middle of the top rope in the ring and did a moonsault off it. And then
Yeah.
him and Kenny, when they got the upper hand, they went immediately into some of their old double team moves that they used back when they were tag partners and tag champs. So it was great to see them working together again. You know, here you have Kenny and Hangman against Pac and Claudio. That'd be one hell of a tag match.
It really would.
So, and then you start seeing the guys start using they begin to start using the cage here. You know, Claudio throws Kenny into it, seeing guys getting drop kick into the cage. So things are starting to get a little violent here.
It does amp up once you have the full, you know, once you have 4 men on each side and the one ring gets crowded, you could split it up into 2 rings and still have interesting action. I think this is why when the next guy who comes out, Jon Moxley, he comes out, he immediately amps it up. Now, I think he would have been better served for something else, but he brought out the glass. And I thought, I mean, the announcers certainly were shocked that he brought glass that early. I was like, really? He's breaking out the glass now? And it looked vicious. It looks terrible. It sticks in the back. It's violent. It's not quite bloody enough to be real glass. And so it kind of pulls me out a little bit. And by the end of the match, it's basically disintegrated because it's sugar. And so I think if they had brought the glass out later, it would have had a better impact. Like if he had come out with the tacks. Tacks don't go anywhere. They hurt the whole time. Kota Ibushi even took a bump after the cameras are off just to prove he's still crazy. But
Well, he did come out with a white bucket full of glass. But when Mox first came out, he had a fork, and everyone
That's
was
true.
getting forked.
That's true.
Kenny and Hangman were both getting forked. I was thinking they were going to start bleeding. He had an extra fork that he gave to Claudio.
That's true.
And guys were getting forked. The forks weren't causing any bleeding though, which I thought was, I mean, it almost always, like, people bleed almost immediately after getting hit with the fork, but it wasn't the time yet for that. So yeah, I thought the ante and the violence definitely went up once the forks came out. And I'm not a huge fan of the sugar glass, but it always gets a great reaction from the crowd. You know, the "you sick fucks," you know, the guys selling it with the glass looking like it's sticking in their backs.
Okay, so here's the thing. It is sticking in their backs. It is painful. I'm not going to downplay that.
Is it painful?
I mean, it's a lot more painful than, say, the mat. It's probably equal. It's probably equal to Legos. And if you say Legos aren't painful, wait until you have a kid. And I will tell you now, they are painful as fuck.
Yeah, I'm not saying Legos don't hurt. Like, I have stepped on Legos. I have 3 younger brothers growing up, so I stepped on my share of fucking Legos.
Fucking no.
In this glass, I don't think it hurts at all. I mean, it's just like.
You don't think it has any sort of lasting pain? Okay.
No, I think the bump on the mat hurts, but that the sugar sticking to your back doesn't hurt. Is basically what.
It's just the sugar happens to be pointed, is all. And it doesn't immediately disintegrate. I'm with you. I think the sugar glass needs some work, and that's why I think it would have been better later when they were already bloody and you couldn't tell. I think it would have worked better then. I think he should have come out with something like tacks or something.
Yeah, I thought the tack. I love the tack spot.
Tacks are always effective. They are always effective.
I loved how they did it late in the match. I think saving them to get a crescendo late in the match was important. So.
Well, again, I don't have a problem with bringing out the tacks late. I think the sugar glass should have also been later, is all I'm saying. Both of those.
I don't think they should. On one hand, I want to say I don't think they should use it at all because I don't like it. But at the same time, it always gets a great response from the crowd, and it's just something easy to do early that doesn't take anything out of the guys. So I think we'll be seeing it again.
I have no doubt we'll be seeing it again. There's nothing that says that they would ever back off of using sugar glass because it does look visually nasty for the audience that's live, and they respond to it, and then that comes through to the live crowd at home every time. So Moxley came. What's that?
The last thing I'll say about the Moxley's 3 minutes was he had a vest and a t-shirt on, so he came in,
Yeah,
pretty
armored.
pretty covered, to protect himself from it. I just thought that was weird for Mox to do that, but yeah, the vest and the shirt didn't stay on very long. So.
And it didn't protect him from the spots. I mean,
No.
not mostly because he took it off, but the nasty spot. Yeah, the nasty spots he took later were not protected at all.
Yeah, I wasn't buying the sugar glass through the denim vest.
No, God no. Not at all. After Moxley was Nick Jackson. Nick is fluid. When he comes in and he does the hot tag, which he kind of did here, and he has this ability to do a move against everybody. And in this case, it was basically 1, 2, 3, like 3 or 4 opponents instead of the normal 2. But he has that hot tag, and he goes in and out, and he goes out of the ring of one into the other, really fluid, does a move, goes back, does the moonsault, Nick Jackson is amazing, and if he ever did single stuff, I would be surprised. But it's one of the reasons I'm impressed with the Young Bucks is how fluid his hot tag is, how fluid he is in and out of the ring, around the corner, move after move, chain wrestling. It's phenomenal. And I don't know when in the match he did it, but he did it in this match. And I'm bringing it up now because that was his time to shine. Nick Jackson did great in his 3 minutes. And then, of course, it evened up and Wheeler came out and got to beat up people. Did you have anything to say about Nick's entrance and his time?
I like how you call it Nick Jackson's hot tag routine, because that's exactly what I had in my notes. And I thought it was absolutely amazing how he kind of finished up his hot tag routine, where he climbs to the top turnbuckle in one ring, jumps to the top rope in the second ring, and springboard hurricanranas onto Claudio, and then he snaps Claudio right into the glass. I thought that was a great spot.
There were so many of those types of great spots. That was a highlight, definitely.
And then you saw, Mox basically, as soon as Nick got up, Mox ended up putting Nick into the glass with the suplex. And then they, Claudio and Mox double superplexed someone onto the glass. I don't remember who it was.
They worked that glass constantly.
But what's interesting is, despite all this shit, there's no blood. So we have fake glass, we have forks, we have guys going into the cage. There's no blood yet.
Yeah.
So, Mox has been in the ring for 6 minutes and there's no blood, which might be a record for him.
No. There have been a couple of matches that he didn't bleed, but his opponent did.
I was being sarcastic.
Your sarcasm, man. Come on. All right. So the Wheeler comes out. He's the 7th guy out. So we're getting some pretty full rings now. We're getting close to the end. And, as usual, when the heels have their advantage, they take over. There's the back and forth, as always. Pac and Claudio have their frictions. But Claudio and Yuta, his young boy, are dressed the same. They have matching tights. They have and Mox doesn't. None of the rest of their team has matching tights. But Claudio and Yuta do. And they work as a team. They constantly put people into double team maneuvers. There's just carnage. It's impossible to really keep up with everything that happens in this match, especially in the time before all of them are in it and the match officially starts. What notes did you take on the Wheeler Yuta entrance?
So Yuta comes out with a chair.
Yeah.
Chair shots everyone. He did get his hands on one of the forks that was still laying around the ring and pummeled Nick with that a little bit. And then he hit Nick, which what I thought was one of the nastier spots of the night was Wheeler sets up that chair in the ring, stands it up and suplex Nick right through it. And just Nick's head was just like his chin was like tucked into his chest. I don't even know how he could breathe because part of the chair was like still standing up. It was just a devastating move. So I thought Yuta had a pretty solid entrance. It also makes sense that he needs a chair to take out these guys, But yeah, good stuff.
I mean, Yuta is still so far down on the card compared to everybody else in the match, even Takeshita, that using a chair in that way really showed that he can be violent enough to take out a top star. And I think it highlighted what he's been learning from the BCC. And all the heel lessons and all the violent lessons are starting to show. and his character's really starting to develop. You know, maybe he's not over as big as Takeshita, but he's becoming a top of the card sort of workhorse, you know, and I like
He's
it.
got to win over. He's got to win over Kenny.
Look, he pinned him clean, 1, 2, 3 in the ring.
Yep.
Anyways, so after Yuta, then we got Mac Jackson who came out, got to even things up. During the match, somehow he swapped out his shoe and ended up putting on his tack shoe. And at one point ended up giving a super kick to at least Yuta with the tack shoe, and I think he hit Pac. And I'm sorry, but super kick with tacks on the dude's foot, that's just messed up. But that's Mac Jackson's signature in these types of matches now, is the shoe with the tacks. You know, he got to even things up. People got a break on the good guy's side. The faces got to get some moves in. There's carnage. I'm not going to break into detail. Do you have any detail about Matt Jackson's time to shine?
Sure. Yeah, I just noted that he's wearing sleeves on both arms now. I don't know if that's to try to make people not think about the injury, but yeah, Matt does have a partially separated bicep, and if you watch Being the Elite, their YouTube show, you can see that even when he's backstage, he's got that arm wrapped up pretty good. So that's an ongoing thing. I think at some point he's going to need surgery, and he might need to take a year off possibly. I guess unless it continues to heal, but we'll see what happens there. So I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen the Bucks fight a lot is because Matt definitely has some injury concerns. So during Matt's run, he DDT'd Yuta on the chair. Also during this segment, Mox was all of a sudden gushing blood. I'm not sure if it was because he went into the cage or he got hit with the fork or if it just
I don't know
spontaneously.
I don't know when Mox broke out the bed of nails.
I have that.
Is that after Ibushi's in?
That was after everyone was in. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know why he would have broken out in the blood other than maybe he took a shot where he was like, okay, now I get to finally bleed. Maybe that was the agreement. He had to wait for half the match to be over. I don't know.
It's it's tough for the cameraman to catch everything. At this point, you got 8 guys in the ring. So, I mean, it could have just been a fork shot, or someone could have grabbed a piece of the sugar glass and raked it across his head. I don't know what happened. I suppose if you looked it up, you might be able to find someone who saw it that was there live. But yeah, I mean, it's Mox bleeding, so it's
hardly a surprise. Hardly a surprise.
Another good spot during this segment was Kenny hit the Kitaro Crusher on Yuta right into the glass. And the other thing I noted was Claudio was wearing a jacket during this match, and I'm not sure whose jacket it was. I was going to go back and look, but I was kind of out of time. I don't know if it was one of the Young Bucks jacket that they wore out or Yuta's, but yeah, Claudio did have a jacket on.
He put it on mid-match then.
Yeah, and it came off shortly after that, but he did have a...
He was probably just taunting him. It was probably Matt, because Matt likes to rip the jacket off in his entrance, if I recalled. He came in and threw the jacket off and started doing his big rush moves. And he did do a lot of really cool stuff, because Matt does have some impactful things. So it was probably just Claudio taunting him.
Yep, makes sense.
So after Matt comes in and the good guys have got their evened out odds, then of course the bad guys, the heels, get their next entrance, which was Konosuke Takeshita, and he also had a chair in hand, and he's almost the last man, so there's only one man after this. He comes in with a chair in hand. Of course he's going to start hitting people with the chair, and once again carnage. Once again, I'm not going to try to go into it. That's not what I do. Jay, how much do you have as far as notes for Konosuke Takeshita and the chair?
Takeshita had a nice chair shot to the face of Hangman with the chair, and they suplexed both Bucks at the same time, and then he started hitting Kenny with the chair. And then Takeshita landed a huge lariat on Kenny, and that was pretty much it for Takeshita's. It seemed like they didn't give him too much, or the cameras didn't focus on it, because about a minute after he came in, that's when Mox started dragging the bed of nails out. So everything and everyone in the crowd started focusing on that. Like, holy shit, John Moxley just pulled out a fucking, legit bed of nails, an enormous structure with I don't know, 1,000 or more nails in it, and he stands it up in the corner. So here we have this bed of nails in the corner of the ring, and Mox is going after Kenny. Kenny blocks the Irish whip attempt, turns around, but Mox drop kicks Kenny right into it. So Kenny's back slams against the nails in the corner. After that happens, because of the impact to the bed of nails, which this thing is fucking heavy, this bed of nails, it falls back and it hits Kenny in the back, and you can just see Kenny wince when that hits him. So Kenny tries to get the thing off him, and then it like lands on his foot, and then Kenny winces again and moves the bed of nails off the foot. So if these nails weren't shaved and they were all sharp, like there would have definitely been blood there. Like there was no way you would have gotten out of a puncture shot. But still, even so, Kenny was selling it great, and either way, it looks like it's gonna hurt.
So
after that, Kenny. My last comment is Kenny or Mox picks up Kenny after all of that and fucking slams Kenny right on the nails. Crowd starts going bonkers.
And at one point,
Mox like the perfect crescendo to the next entrance. But I'll let you get your thought in.
I was just going to say that at one point, Mox ended up being slammed on it, and you know, we'll talk about that here in a second. But the fact is, there were a lot of people taking moves on that bed of nails. Mm-hmm. And no, they did not end up quite nearly as bloody as they should have if they were sharp. They had to have been filed. It has to be gimmicked. Even though it's spreading out the damage, that was nasty to see, and I guarantee it hurt to take. Kenny took bumps on it. Moxley took bumps on it because he who sets it gets it. If you bring it, you're taking it. Right. Moxley knew he was getting put on that. What's funny is as Ibushi comes out, first of all, when he came out, he got a massive pop. He got a legitimate superstar reaction. So good on the fans recognizing Ibushi, knowing that he is a top-level performer. He didn't show it in this match, but he is a top-level performer. Now, for me, he reminds me of a guy who hasn't had a boss for the first time in years. And he's finally got to slack off a little bit. Didn't quite work out maybe as much as he should have. And he just kind of seemed a little off. Maybe it was jet lag. Maybe he didn't get out early enough. Maybe he just didn't have that fire because he is independent. He's just going to show up. He's going to have a good time. And maybe he didn't have that drive, that push. Whatever it is, this is not the Ibushi I was expecting. I know you've got thoughts on it. Ibushi shows up in the match. You've got to have some opinions on the Ibushi that showed up.
Yeah, so I thought it was Kenny getting slammed on the spikes the bed of nails was like the perfect setup to get the crowd going bonkers. And then Ibushi's music hits and it's Ibushi's intro. I thought it was a nice kind of a double crescendo where just to get the crowd up to another level for Ibushi's entrance. It was when Ibushi walked out, my first thought was, damn, he's let himself go. But Meltzer did say that Ibushi is hurt right now. And I think Ibushi may have gotten hurt in his match against Joey Janela from a couple months ago.
Yeah.
They did some crazy spots in that match, way crazier than anything Ibushi did at this show. One of which was Ibushi was on the second rope outside the ring, facing the outside of the ring, and he gave Janela a German suplex off the second rope to the floor, through the table, which is just a crazy spot. And I don't know if Ibushi may have tweaked something there. There were times in the match, and even at the end of the match, where Ibushi looked like it was painful to stand up. And I think, if most of us have been through that, either from like a sports injury or something, where when your back is messed up and it hurts to stand. It just seemed like that might have been the situation that Ibushi's in. So I think that's why he hasn't been able to do his normal workout routine. Normally he's sculpted like a god and is one of the craziest looking wrestlers. But yeah, I mean, his shoulder injury from 2 years ago was really bad. It was so bad that a year later he could not even do a single push-up, which for a guy like that is just, I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah, and that's what he looked like. Is he looked like what people say Adam Cole has gone to. He looked like somebody who used to be really built, like when Triple H got off the juice. You know, he went from just cut, ripped, veins, muscling, into Triple H the Doughboy. And this Ibushi, I was like, wow, that is not what I was expecting. And
Yeah,
his
he
performance matched it.
He missed a couple kicks.
Yeah.
He whiffed a kick.
Yeah, he
On
did.
Mox,
He there was
he
at least
fell down,
one
he
knee
fell on his ass. He
with
did
Takeshita.
start kicking Claudio pretty hard because Claudio wouldn't let go of the sharpshooter. Claudio was like, "Dude, if I'm gonna let go of this move, you're gonna kick me for real."
I want to talk about that in a
Claudio-
second, but
Yeah, it was like Ibushi was. It was like he was pulling his punches, or his back was so fucked up, or something else that he just couldn't perform at his normal level.
The thing about the segment with him kicking Claudio, that was fantastic. It was amazing to see Claudio just shrug him off and just go, "No, I don't think so."
Right.
You know, there was just all the little things that happened. Ibushi did do a move onto Mox. He did a standing backflip, basically a moonsault onto
the bed of nails
Box, onto the bed of nails.
Yeah.
You know, and then after the match, Ibushi, for the crowd, threw down some more of the tacks and then took a tack bump. Nobody moved. He did it just himself. Just because it's Ibushi. But this was not the performance I had expected for his debut, and in Blood and Guts of all things. So I just really hope if he does come back, if he has an extended program with AEW, that he's able to show why they built him up to this degree, because I was really let down by his performance, and I hope that it's not a motivation thing. I hope it's
No, he's dealing with injuries.
That's what I'm saying, is that I hope he can get back to where he used to be and really improve, and if Janela hurt him, then that's just one more time.
No, it wasn't. It wouldn't have been Janela's fault.
All right.
You know, it was. I don't want to get into the blame Joey game.
Okay, fine. We won't blame Joey.
Poor Joey. I have defended Joey relentlessly for many hours of my life.
Okay, that's fair.
So Ibushi's 41, and you know that's old for a wrestler, even by today's standard. And he still looks better than most 41-year-olds that are out there in the ring. And you talk about guys who put themselves through abuse and do higher risk spots. Like Ibushi has done some of the highest risk stuff in the history of the business, and he has taken hits harder than anyone else. So it's not surprising that at this stage of his career, he's dealing with some serious injury problems. The unfortunate part about it is his shoulder injury that knocked him out for 2 years that happened in the G1 was because New Japan was forcing him to work hurt.
Yeah.
So he tried to do that Phoenix splash, didn't have complete control, and when he hit, it popped his shoulder out, fully separated shoulder, and just made a mess up there. And so, 2-year recovery there. I hope whatever's ailing him now is something he can get through. I hope he tones down his style. We don't need to see him doing German superplexes through tables in front of 200 people when he could literally be fucking main event in Wembley and having one of the greatest matches of all time against Kenny Omega. It's like, dude, he marches to his own drum or his own band. He does his own thing. He doesn't like being under contract to one organization. He likes being more of a freelance guy that'll stick in one promotion. So I definitely do not see him signing with AEW. But I'm just hoping that we can get. I do want to see Ibushi fight Omega at some point, and I'm hoping that can happen this year. So
hopefully, there's been a lot of injuries plaguing AEW. So and that's again part of the reason why they tightened up the styles. I think that Warner Brothers Discovery looked at it and said, okay, maybe you don't do all these crazy moves and you can keep people healthy for your biggest shows. And realistic.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's why WWE did it to begin with. But they also had a shitty style, and then they made it even worse. This is just a really extremely entertaining but dangerous style, and I just want it to be the entertaining and not super dangerous style.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it came out on Twitter. Fightful leaked a memo that AEW sent out that banned specific things, like fully banned. There's 100% ban, and there's no exceptions for like the following items. And this is just off the top of my head. So no spitting, which is good. No unprotected chair shots to the head. No interacting with the fans physically. So like MJF knocking people's hats off and spilling drinks on people. That
Stealing their signs.
No, I'm not sure. I think the sign thing might still be okay.
Okay.
But I think dumping tequila on an 8-year-old's head is
probably out of line. And no bleeding on people. No bleeding in the crowd.
Which is good, man. I was at a GCW show and this fucking guy had bladed and he was covered with blood. And they throw him into I'm like in the second row, and they throw the dude my way. I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't want this guy's fucking Hep C in my eye or something.
Exactly.
So we don't need bleeding in the crowd. If you're into that sort of thing, more
go
power
to GCW.
All right. I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. These are slightly higher quality shows.
The second part of the list had, I don't know, maybe 10 items in it that were also banned, and I think every single one of those 10 items that they said were no longer allowed unless you get special permission. I think every single one of those items was in this blood and guts match.
It's simply permission from the producers, the agents, the people in the company who are allowed to give permission.
Blood, foreign objects, buckle bombs. We saw the buckle bomb, which I'll talk about. Pile drivers, flip spots, like all these moves we were supposed special permission only, and we saw every single thing on that list in this match. And so I thought that was kind of hilarious. I was like, oh, I guess that list isn't.
Well, no, it absolutely was enforced, but the top people in the fucking company got permission to do them. Is all I see it as.
Do you really think they went through an approval process to do their buckle bomb and their DTs? And I don't.
I absolutely think that they walked through all of their planned spots with the producer who said yes.
I don't.
Why not? They do it with producers every fucking match anyways, and they just simply say, and we're going to blade here. We're going to bring this in here. There's going to be blood here. We're going to do a buckle bomb here. We're going to do a triple spot here. We're going to have Pac hanging off the roof here. Yes, I absolutely think they went through it with the producer. What's the big fucking deal?
They went through it with Christopher Daniels, who's going to tell the Elite no to anything.
Exactly. That's my point. These are the top people in the company. Of course they walked through with the producer and got approval. The approval was a rubber stamp, but the fact is they did it.
Maybe. We don't know for sure.
Well, I'll guarantee they walk through with a producer like they do every match. It's just normal production.
Yeah.
In this case, they happen to say, we're going to do a blood spot here. We're going to do a buckle bomb here. Mean, they already do that. And now they have the special permission from a producer. Big deal. The people lower on the card who are going to come up through the system, through this bureaucracy they have in place, will be used to it. By the time they get to be superstars, it'll just be another part of the process. I don't see a big deal.
I don't know. It just seems like lately they talk about, they're starting to give people credit for like, so and so produced this match, and I forget who produced the Bullet Club versus FTR match, and they were like making a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, the wrestlers are what, probably 95% of what I guess I would just prefer the producer thing to like not be a topic of discussion. Like
for some reason it started in the WWE. It started during the 20-year monopoly when people were trying to find bright spots, and they say, this one match was produced by blankety blank blank, and that was one of the high spots of the entire show. Basically it was a Vince show anyways, so everybody was looking for a reason to have something positive to talk about. And they started talking about producers because one match did so well and it was one producer who did it. And then later the next pay-per-view, the same producer, did another match. They have an influence that I, as a non-wrestler, don't understand or know. But I know they have an influence.
Yeah, I just don't want that to become a thing. I don't want to see guys getting awards because they produced, and it's like, well, the wrestlers are the ones who fucking did this. I don't give a shit who sat there and nodded their head and said, maybe do do a roll up and pull the trunks and I just don't want to see that.
I have to compare it to the current strike in Hollywood, where producers, writers, directors, everybody has to work together to produce something. And in the case of a wrestling match, the producers do have an influence. I don't know what it is because I've never been a wrestler. In AEW, I know the wrestlers have a huge ability to influence their own matches. Like Max is producing his own matches, basically. All of these segments, all of these things are basically Max putting it together himself. But in WWE, they're so segmented, so regimented that these producers do have legitimate input into how matches are all done and put together. And we're also seeing in Collision where different producers are having different feels to matches. So I don't want to discount or discredit the role of a producer or a road agent or whatever name they have, because I don't know the inner workings. I do know they have an effect. That's what I know. And the good ones have positive effects. And I want more of that.
Okay.
That's all I know. Because I'm not an expert by any means when it comes to producing a match, when it comes to knowing the idiosyncrasies in the behind the scenes of what a producer actually does when they make a match with someone. I just don't know enough to comment.
Right.
That's why we're marks. That's why we're marks.
That's great. We are match. We are marks. We're fans just like you.
Hell yeah.
So back to the match. Ibushi comes out and Mox has Kenny's hand on the nails.
Yeah, standing on it.
Standing on Kenny's hand. So what does Ibushi do? Does he rush to Kenny's aid to help get Kenny out of this excruciating situation? No,
he does not.
Ibushi stands there and looks at Mox across the ring and watches Kenny writhing in pain, and Ibushi slowly walks over to Mox and then kicks him.
Like I said, Ibushi did not impress. He came down like Jeff Hardy, like he had to dance. Like he just sauntered slowly. Hangman at least looked rushed, but he was limping. Ibushi just kind of sauntered on down, like, yeah, I'm here. Come on. I again, his entire thing did not impress. He was a great pop when he first showed up. After that, I feel a little let down. So
Ibushi's highlight of the night came right after that. So we will also note that at this point, Matt Jackson, Yuta had come running out to attack Ibushi in the entrance area, and Ibushi just one-punched him, and as Ibushi does, and Yuta crumbled to the floor. Matt went out after Yuta, and then he gave Yuta a brainbuster on the ramp, which was pretty badass. So then Ibushi got his big spot in. He hit Mox with a huge kick to the chest, and Mox went back into the nails. So Mox plopped onto the nails, and then Ibushi hit his standing moonsault onto Mox on the nails, which is what I thought was one of the coolest spots of the night. Mox, of course, is writhing in pain. Ibushi looks at his hands after the spot. He has Mox's blood all over his hands, and that was a high point for Ibushi. So he at least did get one really good spot in.
It's sad that he only got one.
Yeah, from there Mox got up and his back was completely drenched in blood. So he did have some puncture wounds from that spot. I thought that was pretty wild.
I will say I found it funny that before Ibushi came out, Mox had blood on him, but as Ibushi entered, when he showed up, Mox suddenly started bleeding anew. And so Ibushi just making his entrance caused Mox to bleed.
Right.
Because if you look at the way the camera cuts, it cuts away from Mox, it cuts back to Mox, suddenly he's bleeding more again. Like he freshened up, like he picked scabs or whatever. It was actually funny when I saw someone point it out. I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh man, that's funny. I kind of want to go over some of these segments because holy crap, once the match actually got started, they had some of these amazing combos. There was one that was all done to poor Pac. And it started with a BTE trigger by the Bucks. Then Omega picked him up, did a roll through into tacks. Then he got hit by a shooting star press with Hangman, then the moonsault by Omega, then the elbow drop by Matt, then the 650 by Nick. Then he was put into a double submission, a crossface and a Boston Crab, and then he was part of the Best Meltzer Deadeye Tombstone combo. Pac got fucking destroyed. And then, of course, later in the match, he got so fed up he left. I mean, this was just devastating on poor Pac. There were so many other things. There was the four-way superplex by the BCC onto everyone. There was a one-winged angel that got countered into a brutalizer. That was when everybody got put into a submission, while giant swing on Matt Jackson was going on in the other, and then he got dropped into the tacks. Everybody was in a submission. Ibushi gets out, kicks everybody to break it up. Finally, as we talked about, goes over to kick Cesaro, who no-sells it like 3 or 4 times, and finally gets broken up off of his submission. Then they go into what seems to be the finishing sequence, and Cesaro accidentally hits Pac, and then Pac gets all pissed off. He grabs bolt cutters from under the ring, cuts the lock, and leaves. And that's it. That's the end. Pac is done. He is out of this match. But after all of those things, can you blame him? Now, of course, he did have the absolute best move of the night, which was a missile drop stomp while hanging from the top of the cage, stomping Nick Jackson through a table that was set up between the two rings. It was the spot of the night, to say the least. It was the most amazing thing I've seen. I've never seen someone hanging from a cage do a swinging power drop stomp through someone with the table that was set up between the two rings. Holy shit. That's what the crowd said. That's what I said. This was an amazing match. Are you fucking kidding me? So, finally, after that happens, Pac was arguing with Cesaro, or with, God damn it, now you got me doing it, with Claudio. The Elite recovered during that time. Don Callis, who's been on commentary this whole time, realizes now that Pac is left, they cannot win, takes Takeshita, and they bolt. And the match ends with Mox being chained up to a rope. He's hanged up to a rope. Yuta's being choked out, and Mox has to give up. And Claudio's being beaten down in the corner. There's literally nothing they can do. And in order to quite literally save Yuta's life, Mox ends up giving up because they were done. They were down 2 people. They could never win. It was an incredible match that some people didn't like. They didn't think there was enough blood. They thought there should have been fire. They thought the ending was bad because Yuta, who was being choked out, didn't give up. He couldn't. Mox was literally the only one left of the team conscious enough to give up. I don't know why anybody has a problem with this goddamn match. What about you?
I enjoyed the match overall. If you want to, there are a few more things I want to talk about with this match, of course. But there's, if you compare it to the other 2 Blood and Guts match, last year you had the BCC versus the Jericho Appreciation Society. You had that crazy ending last year where Danielson was getting choked out. It was like a 2x4 and a fire extinguisher. Eddie Kingston was trying to burn Claudio with the gasoline. Yeah, he was like walking around with a thing of gasoline, and like Jericho Appreciation Society, who Kingston was teaming with I think, or I can't even remember which team he was on, was trying to prevent Kingston from using the gasoline. The first Blood and Guts, you had MJF throwing Jericho off the top of the cage. That was a crazy match too. You had Jericho getting the giant swing on top of the cage by Claudio. Mm-hmm. Where does this match rank up with those others 2? It sounds like the people's favorite match was the one at Double or Nothing last year. The first one was kind of spoiled with, Jericho got thrown off the cage, and you could see all of the fake
crash
like,
pads,
cardboard and the padding, and it kind of put a sour spin on that one. And of course, the original Blood and Guts match, which was supposed to be the Elite, Cody, Kenny, Hanger, and the Bucks against the Inner Circle.
Yep.
With Jericho, Santana and Ortiz,
Hagar.
Sammy and Jake, like that got canceled by COVID, basically.
It did.
But where does this match up? I don't know. I think it was. I'll probably put it 2 after the Double or Nothing one. I think the Double or Nothing one was a little more crazier than this one. As for the blood, Kenny was bleeding from the head. Nick Jackson was bleeding from the head. But the only people who really gushed were Yuta and Mox. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Tony said, yeah, I don't want 8 guys out here gushing blood. And then the wrestlers might be like, yeah, I don't know if it's them saying, yeah, I don't want too much blood out there. I don't know who pulled the plug on that. Of course, the bloodthirsty fans would like that better, but I don't know. I don't need like 8 guys gushing blood to enjoy a match. So,
right. That's what I'm saying is, I thought it was great. I thought there was lots of violence. I thought the glass spot made me wince. I know the fucking bed and nails made me wince multiple times. The tacks always get to me. The fork spot didn't do shit.
The locomotion. How about the locomotion Northern Lights suplex on top of the cage? Were you worried with that?
No. I mean,
No?
I liked it. I didn't really fear for them falling. No. I thought that they were much too professional to even. They kind of pretended a little bit. The stuff on top of the cage this year was weak compared to last year. The giant swing on top of the cage is tough to beat.
Yep.
It's just, I tried not to compare it to previous ones. I just wanted to enjoy it for what it was. And I did enjoy it for what it was, which was a fantastic, brutal, violent, bloody match that hopefully ends the Elite versus the BCC and starts things like Moxley versus Pac or Claudio versus Pac or some of those extended feuds. Now, I know you wanted to bring up the storyline from Pac and Mox from a couple of years ago.
So it was Dynamite number 3, and it was Hangman and Kenny in one of their first matches together as a tag team. I think it might have even been their first AEW tag team match together. And it was, of course, it was only Dynamite 3, so it probably was.
Right.
And in that match, Pac and Mox got frustrated with each other, and Mox hit Pac with the DDT, chicken wing DDT, and then just bailed. And so Kenny and Hangman gave Pac, I believe they gave him the last call, which was their finisher, the buckshot lariat / V trigger combo, which they did use tonight or, during Blood and Guts, which I thought was awesome. So Pac leaving was basically the same thing that Mox did to him 3 years ago.
Yep.
So there's a story there, and I think we might see a callback to that. Tony's not big on doing callbacks; like he wouldn't show footage from 3 years ago, which is unfortunate because I love that stuff.
They talk about it occasionally. They've done a little bit before.
Yeah, but I think we might be getting set up to see like Death Triangle against BCC might be where this is going.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, that would be some good stuff. It would keep everyone busy until Danielson gets back, I guess. And BCC might be face again now. I don't know.
They after the match was over, they did have a handshake spot with the Elite. So they showed some respect. They were like, okay, you beat us. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was like Kenny basically announced the end of the feud after the match and said he had respect, and they all shook hands. It was like a curtain call. Some people compared it to that. So
if we're turning BCC face, which without Danielson they can easily do, and they go back to being face like we were supposing for their match against the Death Triangle, then it makes sense that they have that moment that Moxley realizes, you know what, we just can't always go and try to kill everyone. Whatever it is, they can still be the badass BCC, but be face. So I liked the respect spot. I think it's helpful because the two people who didn't show respect were Pac and Takeshita. They walked out of the match. So there's lots of story to go telling with those guys mixing up without needing the Elite, and that sort of puts a cap on it. That sort of ends it. They got the show of respect, they're done. Now they don't have to interact anymore. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think, and then we'll see Jericho joining up with Callis and Takeshita to go against the Elite, and so Don will probably bring in a couple other people to go against, Kenny, the Bucks, and Hanger.
Sure, that'll probably be where they go next. That makes sense, because Takeshita is definitely still wrapped up in the Elite storyline, because he's not part of the BCC.
I think one of my favorite spots of the night that you did mention, it was when Matt Jackson was on top of the cage, that he found a bag of tacks up there. He poured the tack through the top of the cage. They came raining down, thumbtack rain, and Hangman and Nick Jackson, they gave Pac and Claudio both a body drop into the tacks.
So the setup, I love the setup, because it was Pac and Claudio were setting them up to do like a power bomb or what have you.
Yep.
And so they had, the you said it was Nick and Kenny or Hangman. They had their legs between their knees, and they were getting ready to do a move when the rain started, and they looked up like, what the fuck? Because like they couldn't believe what was happening. That was a spot I've never seen. And so they got countered into the back body drops into the tacks. I thought that was great. That's a great reminder of just how unique and creative the Bucks are in ways that you don't expect. How could you not look up into the tack rain? That was great.
Right. The other spot I wanted to mention was, and you had mentioned it, well, we both mentioned it earlier, was the buckle bomb, where Ibushi gave Pac a buckle bomb into the corner, and the Bucks both kicked him in the back of the head at the same time with like that double kick. So Excalibur mentioned after that happened that these three guys, as the Golden Elite, did this at the first All In back in 2018, when it was Ibushi and the Bucks against Mysterio, Phoenix, and Bandito. So I thought that was an incredible callback, and it just shows what a genius Excalibur is. To remember that spot from 5 years ago, that they did this buckle bomb. I thought that was pretty wild, and it's like you wonder, like, did they tip them off they were going to do it, or was Excalibur kind of just like me, like doing this callback 5 years ago, that you remember a specific spot that was pretty wild from a specific date? I thought that was pretty cool.
He's professional enough that it could have been both. He might have remembered it, and then they might have told him. It's hard to know, but he is you'll never know, because he's good enough that you could assume he would have just remembered it. And that's credit to Excalibur. So,
yeah.
I don't have anything more to say about this match, because I'm still a bit overwhelmed by just how violent it was.
Another important spot was when, and you had mentioned it, when Kenny went for the OWA on Pac. Pac reversed that into the Brutalizer. And at the first All Out in 2019, Pac beat Kenny with that move. And that match happened at All Out because Moxley was out with MRSA on his elbow. So that almost ties into the story a little bit too. So Kenny wasn't prepared to fight Pac. Pac beat him with the Brutalizer. And, it was the same exact spot. Seeing it tonight, I thought, or seeing it at Blood and Guts was, I keep saying tonight like I just watched it. But yeah, I thought that was a nice callback to that spot. And I'm sure we'll see Kenny and Pac battling again. I'd love to see them in another singles match in the future, because I don't think they really delivered the type of match they wanted to with that first All Out match. It was on short notice, and I know those two guys could have put on a legendary 5.5-star match. And so hopefully we get that someday.
And it's funny how their roles are reversed, because Kenny was a heel at that time and Pac was mostly face.
Right.
And now Pac is, decidedly heel, and Kenny is decidedly face. So, just interesting how the roles reverse when you look at these stories long enough.
So yeah, I think that covers just about everything. I guess the only other thing I'll say is they did mention that Kenny Omega had fought at Triple Mania. They didn't mention he fought Vikingo though, which I thought was weird, because Vikingo's had
lots of matches
in AEW. And then they did mention that Callis got attacked after the press conference, which we had a really heated discussion with in the chat room the other day. So,
well, sometimes you have to decide whether or not something is real and who's involved, and was it a security guard, was it a fan, was it a spot? Nobody knew. So we had a lot of guessing.
Yeah, but that dude from Observer that says that Callis was hurt and tore his eardrum and had a concussion, that was all bullshit. So,
clearly.
Yeah, none of that was true.
They're feeding dirt sheets. Jericho's famous for it.
Yeah.
And so they know they can just feed shit to the dirt sheets and it gets reported and then they fucked up and whatever.
But it's funny that they're actually playing this up on Dynamite, like that they actually referenced it. I thought that was interesting. It was unexpected. I did not think I was going to hear that brought up during
about Triple
Blood and Guts,
Mania,
but
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised that they mentioned Triple Mania and how Kalis went after Kenny there, because that helps support the feud. But the fact that Kalis got attacked, which I wouldn't consider him that he got attacked. He got restrained and taken down by someone. I guess that's an attack, but I don't know. Anyhow.
It was just a really weird occurrence and not something that happens a lot. So, of course, it gets talked about and people are going to spin it to whatever they want to spin it. And when you're a wrestling journalist, you're going to write whatever gets you the most clicks.
All right, so I would give Blood and Guts, after rewatching it, I think I'd give it 4.5 stars. I think it was fun. It was excellent. It didn't quite... I think Ibushi being hurt and some of the other guys being hurt brought down what this could have been. Like, your suggestion, like, with Danielson and Kenny starting off the show, like, starting off the cage, that would have been nuclear heat. Like, the crowd would have been going crazy for that. I would have loved to have seen it. But, Kenny Claudio's not a bad, second best start there. But excellent match. I thought the Elite could have been a little more creative. I mean, there was definitely some creativity here, but I was expecting just a little more that could have pushed it up to 5 stars. And I think these guys are playing it safe with their contract expiring in 5 months. I think that's playing a big part in the amount of risks they're willing to take right now. So, because if one of these guys gets hurt, it's going to fuck everything up. So, because if they're going to leave, if they're going to negotiate and play WWE and AEW off each other, they need to be a group package. So if someone's going to be out for 6 months, it's going to throw that whole window out. So
throw that timing off. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm sure they want to get paid sooner than later, and decide what the, probably another 3-year deal. This will probably be the biggest deal they sign from a money standpoint, because they're 2 of them will be like mid-40s by the time this ends. But it's going to be an interesting 5-6 months to see what happens.
Here's the thing. The Elite and Kenny, call it a package deal. Yep. First of all, whoever they sign with, going to be the biggest check ever. Because one company is about to sign a $1 billion deal. The other one is got multiple $1 billion deals. They both have money. Right. They both are going to throw a shit ton of money at this trio.
Yep.
I don't see the Elite leaving. Now, that's not to say they won't. Cody did. But I just don't see it happening, because I don't know that they would want to work the WWE style.
There's too many restrictions, I think, in WWE for them, but I think they've also been restricted a lot more than they expected and don't have as much freedom as they thought they would have in AEW. I can say that for the Bucks. Kenny basically does what Kenny wants, but I feel like the Bucks have kind of been neutered the last couple of years in AEW, and I think they might, I could see them potentially leaving. So.
I would advise them that Vince hates tag teams.
Yeah.
And that's all I would say.
Right.
And FTR knows, they probably talked to FTR about it. I wouldn't see the Bucks going there. It would be a bad move. Bad. Anyways.
Yeah, but if they could be the Usos to Kenny, that's not a bad gig. So
they would get buried by the Usos. I know we say that about Cody, but Cody actually had a history in WWE.
Yep.
And therefore he was coming home after building his stock up. That's normal for WWE.
Yeah.
But unless they're treated like AJ Styles, who built his career in Japan, but did not build a company that pissed Vince off.
Right.
So I just think it would be a bad move, but who am I to say that the giant paycheck from one company wouldn't be better than a giant paycheck from another?
Right. It's that fine line between, what do you value more, like a couple $1 million? And of course, we have this problem when, me and you, Scott, when we're negotiating deals with our different podcast companies. It's like, Are you, is it quality of life and having freedom to do what you want, or is it that extra $1 million that you can take? So,
Well, I know the last time that we signed a contract, it was definitely for the extra million, but it was only because we had already had the couple previous where we had the quality of life built in. So
I was
I
going to
think,
say we turned down the millions because we wanted our freedom, and it was more important to have that freedom than millions of dollars.
well, that actually reminds me because it kind of brings me up to this week's spot of the week. Because this week's spot of the week is brought to you by our sponsor, the Elite Mark Order. Us. We're paying ourselves to do this. And today, we've got our very own shirt available from Zazzle.com. All you got to do is go to Zazzle.com/store/Elite Mark Order, or click on the link in the description down below. It's the best way to support the channel. If you order it today, you could wear it the next time you go to an event and proudly be an elite mark of the Elite Mark Order. Now, as far as the spot of the week itself goes, of course it comes from Blood and Guts. For me, it was Pac's missile dropkick stomp while hanging from the top of the cage, stomping Nick Jackson through the table that was set up between the two rings. I've never seen it before. It's amazing. It was accurate. It was brutal. It looked vicious. And the audience itself was as stunned as I was. So, just for the viciousness, Pac earns the spot of the week. How about you?
My spot of the week was the double clothesline. It was more devastating than everything we saw in Blood and Guts. It was just an incredible moment. Just the way they signaled to the crowd, and Daniel Garcia. I don't know if he'll ever be the same after working that double clothesline from MJF and Adam Cole. Just a devastating maneuver that takes years off of a career. So,
well, I do know that he was at the hospital and that there were some photos taken of him in a neck brace and a back brace.
Wow.
That double clothesline really fucked him up.
Yeah. I mean, move over Stan Hansen's lariat, move over Kobachi's burning lariat. This is the most devastating move in the business right now. Double clothesline, MJF and Cole.
Totally understand why that would be your spot of the week. That makes sense. And prayers goes out to the family and friends of Daniel Garcia for being the recipient of such a devastating, nasty move as the double clothesline.
That's for sure.
Now let's talk about the rest of the show, shall we? We've only been at this a little over an hour, which makes sense because the match itself took an hour. So let's talk about how it started. It started with a video vignette of Jungle Boy burying what looked to be his leopard print boots. And then, after he buried them, he got into a limo, and it was just kind of dark for a while. And like it really extended out. I think they were trying to build tension. I'm not sure. And then his old music starts, and then it gets killed. And then they hold off. And then they finally started music that was the new entrance for Jack Perry. And it's another piece of classical music, this time Beethoven's Fifth. Dun 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 dun. Everybody knows Beethoven's Fifth. But what is it about classical music that works so well for wrestlers, especially heels? There's Flair with also Spock Zafrastra. I can never pronounce that name. There's Macho Man with Pomp and Circumstance, Bryan Danielson, Flight of the Valkyries, Claudio with the 1812 Overture. What is it, do you think, Jay, that's about these songs that work so well for wrestlers, especially heels?
I don't like it in general. The only people that I think it really works for is, Bryan's has a remix version of it, which
True.
is fine. Ric Flair's was perfect. Perfect in every way, spoofing off of the 2001 Space Odyssey song where it was used to show basically the rise of mankind. I also used Ric Flair's song as my entrance for my wedding. So,
of course you're biased.
so yeah, I had to let a couple woos out to lighten the mood for everybody.
Woo!
People get a little tense, so I thought that was a good way to start the show. And of course, Savage's Pomp and Circumstance was just brilliant. There's no other way to to describe that. It was. I think it's one of the best. Both of those guys, Flair and Savage, are some of the best theme songs ever. For those guys, it's just perfection. Jungle Boy.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
you
sure
didn't you didn't say anything
We'll
about
see.
Claudio. You didn't say anything about Claudio in the 1812 overture. I happen to like it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna have a no comment on that one. I guess I don't really have much of an opinion on it. So
I like all of
either
them
way.
up to this one because I'm not
Yeah.
really sure that this works for anybody.
He's gonna have to live up to the other guys who've made it work, and he's not there yet. So maybe he'll have a great run as FTW champ,
Well,
or maybe it's just gonna fall flat like the second half of his face run. So we'll see what happens.
well, let's talk about the match here real quick. Hook versus Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, who no longer is Jungle Boy. He buried the boots, he buried the name, he buried the music. Now he's just Jack Perry in all black. Okay. The match itself was pretty good. Hook was, getting to get his moves in. Jack was doing typical heel shtick. I thought at one point there was, the possibility that Hook might get a win. I thought that the T-bone suplex from the apron to the floor, another potential spot of the night category. I thought this was the absolute longest match that Hook has done. I think he did well. He played up the damage that was done to him. He really got to sell and show that he had that ability. Quite honestly, there wasn't a whole lot to the match. When Jack Perry got the opportunity, he did a title shot. He did get the win. He is the new FTW champion. I called it. I said it in chat a few times. I did it in the predictions. I was one of the few. Jack Perry needed this title. Hook doesn't. Hook has gotten everything he could from this title run. They buried the fact that his winning streak was destroyed, that his winning streak was killed. They barely mentioned it, just offhanded right before they went off camera. But Jack Perry needs this. I think the FTW title run might be helpful, and we'll see whether or not he teams back up with Christian and Luchasaurus as a result. What were your thoughts?
I'd like to see him go back with Christian and Luchasaurus.
Now that there's two champions. They're both champs.
I'd like to see that. And I'm just curious to see what's going to happen here with Jungle Boy's run. But yeah, see Hook losing. I was sort of surprised it happened so easily. I thought it would take a little bit more than a belt shot to hand him his first loss, given that he no-sells pile drivers and shit sometimes. But yeah, we'll see where things go. We'll see how how they're going to use Hook. I wonder if Hook might take some time off and wait for Danhausen to come back, because people seem to love that Hookhausen combo. We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how the guys are going to be used from this point on.
Well, I do know that, first of all, the absolute best part of this match and of this segment was Taz's selling. After the match, Taz was so upset. I don't even want the camera on me. He was just, we're going to get you when Hook gets his hands on you. He sold it perfectly. It was the best part of the match. I'd like to see what they do with Hook. We'll see. Jack Perry, let's see where he goes. Can he have a better singles title run as a heel? Maybe. I honestly think this was the best choice for the title and for the two wrestlers. So there's going to be another match. I don't see Hook winning it. I see Jack winning by shenanigans and most likely Christian and or Luchasaurus. But I'm interested in seeing the next match. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, my comment about Taz is he should quit being a mark and do his job. I don't care if it's your kid. Grow up and do your job, buddy. That's why you're there.
He needs to be a mark. He's an elite mark. How can you say that about him?
Taz wouldn't be allowed to join the Elite Mark Order.
Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. So, the next part, and I'm just going to cover all of it. Marvez, throughout the night, was interacting with Callis and Jericho. First, he had him eating dinner. Then he tried to catch up to him before their match, or before whatever they were doing at the arena. He's not getting any answers. He's just getting insulted by them. Just building up the fact that Jericho and Callis are hanging out, palling around. It happened a couple times throughout the night. Good for Marvez. He's on camera. However, one of the best segments of the night was Cole MJF, where MJF was facing his fears, which was spicy food and poor people in Boston. It was great. They ordered food. They were like piling on the spice. And then as a result, they took a drink of what they thought was water. Turns out it was 100 proof alcohol. So now they're drunk as shit. And they're just hanging out. And MJF is slurring. And he's talking the story about slamming Big Bill. Much like Hulk Hogan. It's in the Saskatoon or wherever it was. I don't remember. Silverdome. Or Saskatchewan Silverdome.
Saskatoon, yeah.
And first it was 88,000 people, then it was 90,000 people, and then it was 95,000 people, and it just gets bigger in the retelling. Realistically, this was one of the most entertaining segments that they could have had. At the end of the night, they picked on the poor busboy, said he looks like Daniel Garcia. They looked at each other, double clothesline! They grabbed hands and they ran at him. Fade to black. Entertaining as hell. Sports entertaining as hell. Once again, keep these two on camera. They're magic. It's great chemistry. Will they extend past their feud with FTR is the question. Will Tony call an audible? Will he change the story that he's already got planned to capitalize on just how hot this act is, this combo is? What are your thoughts?
So I think this is gonna set up the main event for All In or All Out. I think we could potentially see two matches here with MJF defending the title twice in those 2 weeks. I'm not sure though. I really don't know what Tony's gonna do. I know if he wants to sell a lot of pay-per-views, having MJF and that title on the line of both of them is gonna really help. People certainly like MJF, and if he's fighting Adam Cole in Wembley, and then he's fighting CM Punk in Chicago, like, it's going to be a pretty big week for MJF and AEW. So, I mean, that's what I think he should do there. I certainly don't want to see Adam Cole win the AEW title. I just don't feel like he represents what AEW is supposed to be as much as some of the other guys can, like your Mox or your Kenny, or your MJF. But yeah, it's going to be real interesting to see where this feud goes. And I think we'll see this play out for, we're almost at the end of July here, which is crazy. So we'll probably see this feud play out between those two for at least another 6 weeks. So it's going to be fun while it lasts.
Yeah, it is fun. See, I'm of the opinion that Tony should probably try to call an audible and it All In, maybe have FTR versus Better Than You, Baby. And have Better Than You, Baby go over in Wembley. That's, why not? Because, sure, MJF versus Punk or MJF versus Cole could be big. But we know for a fact... You got to escalate that title at Wembley, though. You can't not defend the sure.
title.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. It would just be disrespectful to the title, in my opinion, but...
It would make no sense to have the tag titles be the top of the card at Wembley. At the biggest pay-per-view, at the biggest event that they've ever done. No.
Or MJF could just be in 2 matches. He could go for over an hour. He could go for over an hour.
I mean, he could. It is only a tag match where Adam Cole could do most of the work. And they've proven if you do a tag match with MJF Cole, all you got to do is one body slam. The entire match, everybody will blow up over the 5-star match because the reaction of 85,000 people screaming for a body slam or a double clothesline. This is the most sports entertainment fucking angle they have come up with, and it is brilliant. And I hope it continues well past All In and All Out. I don't anticipate it because they're probably going to do the singles matches. But damn, this is great stuff. Anyways.
Yeah, definitely good stuff. Yep, for sure.
So then we had a match between Britt Baker and Kayla Sparks. And then we had an interview with Renee Paquette and Adam Cole with MJF backstage. And the most important part of that interview backstage was the matching trunks and jackets that Adam Cole came out with matching trunks and MJF came out with matching jackets, or vice versa. I'm not sure which. I thought it was great. And at the end of their little interview, you had Roderick Strong coming in, Adam! And that entire story is so enjoyable. So you basically go from a video vignette with Cole and MJF. Then you do Cole's girlfriend for about 30 seconds. Then you do a backstage interview with Cole and MJF. And then you go straight into their match. That's just great booking. You even got the one women's segment to be Britt Baker, Cole's girlfriend, and they had less than 5 minutes. It was great. Any comments on that whole fucking sequence that they...
No comments on the match, and I was certainly interested to see what the surprise was going into the tag match.
So that said, going into the tag match, right as they're about to get started, Daniel Garcia does his little dance move. MJF counters with his. Ref's about to ring the bell. Garcia stops it. Does more dance. Ref's about to start the bell. MJF stops him. Does a little dance. And then, for some reason, they decide they want to do a dance-off. MJF runs out, goes right on over to the DJ spot, starts some dance music, runs back in. And they have a dance-off. And Sammy and Garcia do a dance. And they end up with Sammy doing his little spin move, and Garcia pokes his head through his legs. Boop! It was kind of funny. Then MJF and Cole. MJF comes out, does his little dance, fans cheer. Then he peer pressures Cole to come out, do his dance. And Cole starts doing thrustings, and then they have a little record scratch play. The lights all come up, and MJF's like, "You can't do that." And in the middle of their conversation about what Cole was doing, they get jumped by the heels, and the match actually starts. Any comment about the dance-off?
I think my favorite dance-off of all time was Sandman and Too Cold Scorpio against Public Enemy back in ECW. Too Cold Scorpio, of course, was a great dancer, and Sandman really isn't, and just the crowd was popping so hard for Sandman to start dancing. So Sandman did start dancing, but it was only a few seconds before he took his cane and started smashing over Public Enemy's head. So anytime there's a dance-off, I always think back to that match. I think that's my all-time favorite one.
So how does this compare?
So I loved how things kicked off and they had the light show and MJF started the light show and everything for the dance-off. I thought that was pretty funny. Adam Cole I thought was pretty horrible at dancing. I don't know if he's just really that bad in real life or he was trying to be funny, but either way it was more cringe than anything. But yeah, good way to start off the match. I know Sammy can do more. Like if you remember the Flim Flam challenge that Jericho did with the Bubbly Bunch during the pandemic.
Oh my God.
Sammy busted out some crazy dance moves, and he didn't do that tonight, probably because MJF didn't want to be shown up. But
he was clearly
more from Sammy out of that.
He was clearly following the lead of Garcia.
Yeah.
Garcia had his little side-to-side, back-forward shuffle, and you could see Sammy was just looking over at him, just trying to follow, like doing whatever.
Yep.
This was the most slapped-together segment, and yet it was still highly entertaining.
It was very entertaining. I loved it.
And it was fun, and it was the sports entertainiest segment of the night. Then we got into the actual match, and you had things like Max teasing Tope. And, no, not doing it. And then he runs the ropes again, no, not doing it. And then finally, with the encouragement of Adam Cole and the fans, he does it to a huge pop. That's the type of thing that Max is able to manipulate and get the fans to start responding to stuff. This is amazing work. Of course, the finale, they tease the double clothesline like 3-4 times during the match. And they finally hit it. The crowd popped huge. MJF and Cole get the win. They face FTR for the titles. And of course, after the match, FTR faced off with them. But that's not the story. Because after the match, Cole picks up the world title, handing it to MJF, but he looks too long. And Max instantly turns on him. They've been waiting for the turn. Max is waiting for Cole to turn on him. But Cole is genuinely trying to be his friend. So there's the tension. It will happen. They will break up. But they're playing it out. They hug it out because, again, the fans chanted, hug it out. They hug it out. Max eventually just has this look. And Cole walks off oblivious. Interesting stuff. And, of course, they do face off with FTR for the titles later on. I'm happen to love everything about this. The one thing I thought was interesting was that at the end of the segment, Dax screamed into the camera, "Play our music, Tony. We're the damn champs." And I think he kind of has a point, and he might be a little upset about Tony. And the only reason he's still in the company is something like Collision. Any thoughts about the match itself?
I thought it was an excellent match, of course. Very entertaining, very sports entertainment. But, when you have a guy like MJF out there and someone like Adam Cole, it works, and it's hilarious. Also enjoyed Sammy and Daniel Garcia here. Daniel Garcia's little dance thing is starting to get pretty over.
Yeah.
He even does it to the ref sometimes, and the referee goes running away. It's just, I wonder what's going to happen with these two. Sammy has been leaning into being more of a face, with the handshakes with Darby and all that, and Daniel Garcia is definitely not going face. He's a heel, and there's no suggestion that he'll turn. So, I don't know what's going to happen with those two, but maybe Garcia will end up joining Jericho and turning on Sammy, and we'll see Garcia going against the Elite. I'd be all for that. I'd love to see what Garcia can do against Kenny and the Bucks and Hanger.
Yeah.
It's, as we're kind of reshuffling the deck here to build for All In and All Out, it's going to be a fun 5-6 weeks for sure.
It is, and I found it interesting that right after the tag match, they actually did a recap of last week's Collision, which they're trying to promote Collision, which is good because this week's ratings apparently close to 1 million, almost 1 million, so ratings are back up for Blood and Guts. They're trying to build up Collision for later on. It just reminds me that whatever, like when WWE recaps the other show, it's because the other show is better. Like when you're on SmackDown recapping Raw, it's because Raw was better. When you're on Raw recapping SmackDown, it's because SmackDown's better. If you're the better show, you don't recap the other show. And I think it's starting to show that Collision is better. Basically, the end of our show is going to be towards the end of this show. Renee Paquette had an interview with best friends Chris Statlander, Darby Allin, and Nick Wayne. And basically, that was Chris Statlander gotten to have her TV time. Of course, you had OC with his belts. Best friends talked about they're going for the ROH titles. Hopefully they win. All the best friends get to have belts. And then Darby asked for a match for AR Fox for the international belt. Of course, OC says yes. I thought it was an interesting little segment. And at the end, Darby Allin and Wayne both did not do the best friend hands in thing. Weird little segment. Any thoughts on it?
I liked seeing Nick Wayne on camera, really, in an interview, interacting with the other guys for the first time.
I don't want him to join best friends at all.
No, I don't. I don't either. He would just. There's too many guys in that group, and most of them don't seem to go anywhere. So
Yuta got nothing from it, and Nick would get nothing from it. I think his association with Darby and Sting is the way to go.
Yeah. So I don't think we'll see him becoming a best friend, but they could be friendly and maybe team up occasionally. But yeah, he needs to stick with Darby and Sting, and I think he's going to. I don't see Nick branching off from him. The other thing is Jordan Oliver is Nick Wayne's partner and possibly his best friend. A couple times I've seen them at conventions; they're always hanging out together. So Jordan Oliver is someone who Nick Wayne's going to be pushing very hard for. So he's someone we might see in AEW soon. Jordan Oliver had kind of a tweet about his dreams coming true or something a couple days ago. So maybe. Maybe we will see him brought in, and it would be cool for Darby to have his friend in AEW with him because they work well together.
Yeah, anytime you can bring in somebody who a top talent works well with, and we've seen it time and again with the Bucks, it almost always works out for the best.
Yep, for sure.
SCU worked out perfectly because they have great matches with the Bucks.
Yep.
Anyways, the fact is, I think that there's, as always, a ton of opportunity, a ton of different directions for things to go. Nick Wayne, much like Billy Starks, is one of those bright stars. We've known about Nick Wayne for multiple years now. And now he's 18. Now he's showing up. I'm excited to see where he goes. I think teaming up with Darby Allin is good. I think you've basically got 3 generations with Sting, Darby, and Nick, where you kind of show the old school, the new school, and the up-and-coming new school. You know what I mean? So I'm just really excited to see where things are going to go with AEW. Collision is getting my attention. I'm really starting to like that show. Dynamite's still the mainstay, and Rampage is still missable. I miss Dark and Elevation. I won't kid you. I used to love watching those just as background, missable, catching up on some of the smaller stars, and Rampage is not filling that gap for me.
No, Rampage is it just hasn't been good. I think one of the problems, like if Rampage wasn't built up to be a good competitive show that was on the same level as Dynamite, people might say, oh, it's just like a laid back Friday show. But
if it came in that way, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I hear Rampage, and I just think disappointment because it didn't live up to what it was supposed to be.
They
so
used
like Dark and Elevation are fine. I didn't go out of my ways to watch those shows unless there was specific talent I wanted to see.
Right.
But occasionally, I'd put it on, and I just enjoyed hearing Taz and Excalibur shoot the shit in the background during the matches. It was always a riot.
Or seeing new talent.
Yeah.
Interact with some of the current talent. It was just always nice to have a nice, relaxed, not low effort, but low announcing effort. Just kind of chilling. They know they're not getting views. They know they're not promoting everything. They do spots, but just much more relaxed. And I liked that. And I wish Rampage could have carried that. But it was premiered as Punk's debut. One of the most spine-tingling, chilling moments I've ever watched. It's still, to this day, the energy and the emotion every time I play Road to the Elite and I do the Punk Rampage match and I get to watch that video. The emotion in Chicago is so palpable. It's just, man. And then Punk squandered it all. So, anyways, it's Collision is an interesting thing. I like where it's going. Come on, AEW, let's get your shit together. Rampage, just relax it. It was built up to be something that it really isn't now. Let it just be Sunday Night Heat.
Do we have anything for Collision tonight?
I don't know. Collision isn't tonight. Collision's Saturday.
Wait, today's Friday. Collision Saturday. Okay.
That's why I have no idea. Do we have anything for Collision announced? I don't think so. When's the OCAR Fox? I don't remember when that is. Anyways, I'll watch Collision, obviously. I won't watch Rampage. I'm just not interested. Not important. Even when they try to make it important, it's not important.
Right. So Meltzer gave Blood and Guts 4.75 stars. And he gave the Bullet Clubbers FTR match 5.25 stars.
Yeah.
So the Bucks are probably pissed about that. I think there's a couple of, they could have done a few more things to get that match over 5 stars in the Blood and Guts, but I still loved it. I thought it was excellent.
Sure, they could have German suplex somebody through the Titantron.
Right.
I hear that gets you the 7 stars.
Maybe.
What's that?
We got as for the Collision match, we got Acclaimed and Daddy Ass against House of Black.
Oh, that's right.
Tomorrow.
For the belts?
Yeah, for the trios titles.
I don't like that. I don't like either outcome. I don't like House of Black losing the belts, and I don't think the Acclaim need to to lose or break up. So I don't like the outcome of that. I just don't think that... just not happy about that.
Yeah, so I think that's all that's announced. Like, I don't know what Punk's doing. I don't know if FTR is fighting anybody, but and I think I just see that QT Marshall just got a new shirt, so
Oh, yeah.
I know you'll be picking that up.
Oh, yeah. I'll be running out today. I'll be writing slap nuts across it.
There you go.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and end this. JJ for life.